Morning.
Good morning, everybody. I think everybody is all fully connected now. And I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for your patience and thank you for getting up early in the morning and tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my chair-elect, Sue Stevenson, and I'm going to let her introduce our assembly member. And if I think we have a couple of electeds here, so you might want to make sure. I'll text you who. Okay, Sue, take it away.
Yes, welcome everyone. Good morning. Let's see. I see Sean Kumagai. He's with City of Dublin. Good morning, Councilman. Hua Adenita, good morning from our board, the Dublin Chamber Board. Hazel's with City of Dublin. Welcome. Let's see, who am I missing? Rick Hatcher, welcome.
Thank you.
And pardon me, help me, what's your position, Rick?
Yeah, I'm an elected official with one of the largest special districts in California. I'm across the hill, the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District. So
fabulous.
Parks. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And we're very honored to have Assemblywoman Rebecca Bauer Kahan with us this morning. She's going to give us a legislative update. A lot of things happening in Sacramento. And I'm sure, hopefully there will be time for questions at the end. So I'm going to stop talking so you can take the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And we'll definitely have time for questions. I prefer to talk about what it is you want to talk about rather than talk at you. So think about what you want to ask me while I'm talking. But good morning, everyone. It's really fun to be here with you. The rain stopped outside, but I love that we got more rain again last night. So let's hope that keeps up. We really need it. But just 2 weeks ago, I was actually at the California Chamber of Commerce event down in Los Angeles, and it was really an honor to be there. I was speaking on energy, but to really hear about the issues that California's chamber is thinking about, and to be with all of you this morning to talk to you and hear what you guys are thinking about. So I'll talk a little bit about what's happened in Sacramento, and then I will take your questions. So I'll talk a little bit about the budget. Obviously, it is one of the ways that we as a legislature influence the state in great ways. So, you know, we had sort of a historic budget surplus this year that was a bit surprising to us when it came in, but as you may have seen in the news, we're expecting a budget surplus again next year. Things continue to go well in the California economy, so it gives us opportunity. And we really were focused this year on our economy, on coming out of COVID, on ensuring that the inequality that was we were seeing come out of this pandemic was addressed to the best of our abilities. So as part of that, we provided $550 million for grants to small businesses and small nonprofit cultural institutions, which raised our grant totals to $4 billion. So that was a pretty incredible influx. And I know we heard from a lot of our nonprofit institutions in the Tri-Valley, as well as our small businesses, that they needed that help because as a result of some of the public health measures that were taken, the shutdowns, it was really a tough year. And so the round 9, so there's been 9 rounds of grants, closed September 30th, and we can see those awards coming out soon. So, you know, we're really hopeful that the recovery will continue for our small business community, which is important both for our small business owners, for our communities, but also for jobs. You know, we know our small businesses are our largest employer in California. And so we need to continue to support them to make sure that the quality of life and vibrancy that we hope to see in California continues to grow. We also, you know, I don't want to not mention the workforce shortage that I know a lot of our small and big businesses are facing right now. We continue to focus on that and look at what we can do to do workforce development. I'll talk a little bit about the funding in our higher education institutions, which is obviously critical to creating the strong workforce that California has always used to thrive. But we put $1.5 billion into a jobs initiative and workforce development, including supporting arts, education, and trades workforce development. So continuing to look not only at how we can support our small businesses, but also our workforce. We also did direct stimulus to Californians with the surplus. It was really critical that we returned some of those dollars back to taxpayers. And so we did a Golden State stimulus program that put money directly into Californians' hands. They needed it most. So that is a little bit of what we did to stimulate our most vulnerable communities. But as I mentioned, our schools are critical to California's success. And as many of you know, and as I know firsthand, being a mom of school-age kids, last year was really tough on our children, on their mental health, and on our students. And so we passed a historic level of school funding this year with $9.3 billion going to our schools, focusing on, COVID preparedness, getting our kids, the learning loss that happened, ensuring we could get them up to speed, and also mental health. We know that their mental health took a real hit during the pandemic and as a result of our school closures. So we wanted to make sure that we were supporting our school districts and doing everything they could to help our children get through this. We also know, going back to what I was speaking about earlier about the workforce, that many women particularly were leaving the workforce during the pandemic because they didn't have the childcare that our schools and our childcare centers that had to shut were providing. As a mom who is balancing all that in my house, I can tell you I know how hard it is to work and take care of your children full time, but I have the privilege of having a job where I can be online. At times, we were obviously in the Capitol as well, but for parents that had to go work in person and their kids weren't going to school, that wasn't a choice. And so not only did we expand our childcare slots this year, we added 100,000 more subsidized slots so our low-income communities could access that childcare. We also raised the rates for our childcare providers because we knew that part of what was critical was not only paying for the slots, but ensuring that our childcare providers could thrive and would be able to provide those slots. So we did both of those things. And again, we really believe that ensuring our children are taken care of is critical to our economy and to women's equity. Housing is obviously something that is top of mind for Californians and for our business owners. One of the things that was actually raised at the Chamber conference that I really appreciated was the impact homelessness is having on our businesses, especially in our urban environments. And so, how do we address it both for the dignity and quality of life that all Californians deserve, but also because we need to fix this problem that is at our doorsteps. And so we, again, put significant investments both into prevention of homelessness, which is really critical and something I want to say that Tri-Valley does incredibly well. And, we work to support them at, which is providing funding to those that are on the razor's edge of losing their home. Because once somebody falls into homelessness, they will be homeless for at least a year. So if we can prevent that homelessness, it is really both to the advantage of the individual who will stay housed and again have the dignity and the housing that is every Californian deserves, but also because it helps us with the homelessness crisis. But we also put $1.75 billion more dollars into Project Room Key, which is that program that you probably have heard about, where we're buying or renting motel rooms to just to provide housing to our homeless individuals. And the counties are doing, especially our local counties, an incredible job of providing wraparound services in that setting. So we can provide the roof over the head, and the counties can then provide the services to get people into permanent housing. And actually, the numbers coming out of that program in our local counties have been really impressive. And so it was something that we wanted to continue to support because we know if we have a roof over their head and we have the supportive services, that is the best pathway to permanent housing for our homeless population. But I will say that, as someone who has started to work on the legislative side in the mental health arena, I think that is really key that we provide all the services because about a third of our homeless population is suffering from mental illness, right? So if we just put a roof over someone's head, but we don't provide them the care they need, they're not going to thrive, right? And so we have to really be providing the mental health infrastructure and the housing. And so that's something we're really working to ensure we're supporting the counties in doing. So that's what we did on a global level to support our communities. But the Senator and I continue to work really hard to bring dollars back to our community for the things that make our community so special. One of the things that I moved here for, and I know many of you did, was the beautiful open space. You can see behind me my virtual background. But we are a district of environmentalists who love our open space. And I know that is true for all of you as well. And so we were able to secure $30 million to preserve and create a new state park out in Livermore, which I'm really excited about. So that'll be be the Tesla park, which is out there and has been under litigation and cost the state millions of dollars in disputes. The dispute is over, and it will now become a passive recreation park for all of us to enjoy. And it's really critical to the wildlife that is out there and protecting our environment. And I'm a huge believer in that we cannot fight climate change without protecting open space. So that was a huge win for us. But also, we were able to secure a little over $2 million for the city of Dublin on their Iron Horse Nature Park and Open Space project. And I love the Iron Horse Trail because I'm a big believer in passive recreation, but also active transportation, right? So using those bike corridors is critical. And we have huge last mile problems here in our district. We have BART, but we don't have a lot of ways to get from our homes to BART. And the more we can build up those bike corridors and the more we can make them desirable to get more of our community onto their bikes or walking to where they want to go, the better. And so I think that Iron Horse Trail expansion and upgrade is going to be really critical to that. I'm excited about watching Dublin finish that project in the years to come. We also wildfire prevention. I can go on and on about all of the ills of wildfires, both the impacts on the climate crisis, you all in the Tri-Valley a year ago facing evacuations as the fire came towards you, what that means for the safety and security of the community, the impact on business. We have to do those evacuations and shut off our power to prevent wildfire. There's so many reasons that we need to do wildfire prevention as a state. And so locally, we were able to provide East Bay Regional Park District with $3.5 million to upgrade their wildfire prevention equipment. So what people don't know is East Bay Regional Park District not only protects their own properties, but they also provide mutual aid to our communities. So when fires were breaking out in the midst of these giant Dixie fires, we send a lot of our air resources from our fire departments off to these major wildfires. And the only remaining air resource often in our community is the East Bay Regional Park District helicopter. And they are able to put out those spot fires and make sure they don't grow into larger wildfires that then put our community at risk. And they needed a new helicopter. And we thought that was really critical because, again, if we can put those wildfires out fast, it's a huge win for our community and our state and our climate. So that was a great budget win that I think will pay dividends for our community. I wanted to mention Valley Link. We're working really hard to get the money here for Valley Link. It's an important transportation project. We know connecting the Central Valley into the Tri-Valley and into BART directly, which is such an exciting thing, both for the Tri-Valley. It will, I think, take a lot of cars off the road, which will increase the air quality, but also quality of life. None of us want to be sitting in our cars. We all want to be at the dinner table with our family. But we'll see, I think, exciting economic development in the Central Valley as a result of that project as well. So I've been working with my colleague over the past to make sure that we bring in the resources to finish that clean energy transportation project. And although we didn't succeed, the governor has said he's going to put $1.5 billion into clean transportation. And we will continue to fight for that because it is a priority both for the Tri-Valley, but also for me as both an environmentalist and a mom who wants to be sitting at the dinner table with my family. And I know all of you do too. So, that's what we did on the budget side. A lot of exciting wins, more to come, hopefully. But, on the legislative side, there was a bit of a tweak this year, which was an interesting one. As a result of the pandemic, we decreased our bill loads. So we were only allowed to move 12 bills from the Assembly to the Senate and vice versa, which, although we still moved a lot of bills, was less. And I think that was a good thing. I think we saw a lot more focus and better legislation and the ability to craft that legislation. Wouldn't say all of it was great and perfect. Obviously, I didn't vote for all of it, so I didn't think so. But we got some good pieces of legislation across. Personally, I moved 2 pieces of legislation that I think are really helpful to consumers and to businesses. We moved AB 1033. So the California State Legislature put paid family leave into place for small businesses a year ago. And one of the things that I was concerned about coming out of that was small businesses that don't have an HR department, don't have access to legal counsel, don't understand these complex laws that we're putting into place that are new. And I didn't want to burden small businesses with litigation. Having been a former litigator, I know what that means for businesses. And so one of the things that a few colleagues and I had pushed as a result of that piece of legislation was a mandatory mediation program. So the workers would have access to this right, but it would protect the small businesses from that onerous litigation. And we got it in the first instance, but it wasn't mandatory and it wasn't perfect. And so we moved AB, turned 33 this year, which protects small businesses from litigation and gives workers rights to this mediation to get their paid family leave faster. So we think this is a win for workers and for businesses. Get out of litigation, remove the lawyers from the equation. I can say that as a lawyer, and instead just make sure that it's all being mediated for free through the department. So this won't cost the small business anything, and it won't cost the worker anything, which I think is a real win. So we were able to pass that piece of legislation, and we're excited that hopefully it means good things for both our small businesses and our workers. We also focused on consumer protection with AB 1320. We continue to worry about the unbanked and the underbanked in California. Many of them are turning to money transfer services as a form of banking. So PayPal, for example, that's their source of banking because they don't have access to the traditional banks that you and I do. And so what we found was that those services were not providing the customer care that a bank does. Money is being held in these services. You can't get a hold of a human being to get access to your money. Your rent is due and your money's sitting there and you have nobody to call. And that's unacceptable. It's your money. You have a right to access it. And so we did a really simple bill requiring anyone who holds your funds to have a phone number that you can call and get help to access your funds. And it was, it's a super simple bill, but we think it's going to be a really positive thing for consumers. So we're excited about that. We continue to be focused on data-driven policy. I'm working on making sure that many of the funds that are sent to especially our local counties, I partnered with a colleague. He was focused on homelessness funds. I was focused on the funds going to our criminal justice system, that we're getting information and data out of that so we can make better data-driven decisions. The private sector does it all the time, right? You make decisions based on what is happening and the results of those actions, the return on investment you're seeing. We need to be doing more of that. We need to be putting our money into recidivism programs that we know are working, into homelessness programs we know are working. And without the data, we can't do that. And so that's one of the things we continue to, your hard-earned tax dollars should be used in the most effective way. And we've seen it in the private sector, and we can do it. We can do it in the government. We just have to keep pushing for it. An exciting bill that Senator Glazer and I partnered on, SB 19, will allow our wine growers to operate 2 offsite tasting rooms under their licenses, which we think will hopefully be a real boon for the Tri-Valley, to increase the number of tasting rooms we have there, because hopefully it's a real draw for people. I know it's a draw for me when I come out there. So that was an exciting local piece of legislation that we think will help increase our downtown presence of our wine rooms, which we have wonderful wineries. People should come check it out, and I think they will. So that's a little bit of the business-focused legislation we did. We took some of the pandemic era laws, I guess we're still in the pandemic era, and we extended them. So Senator Dodd and I partnered on continuing alcohol to go, which has been a real successful program for our restaurants, and we know we want that to continue. And also the parklets. I am a huge fan of the parklets. I know that, it's getting a little cold now, but in California, dining outside is so wonderful. And that program has actually allowed restaurants to double, in some instances, their capacity. And so we wanted the ability for those cities that want to do it to continue to do that. And there were state laws around alcohol that needed to be corrected to continue that. So we did. So really looking at, what can we take out of this pandemic that is a silver lining and continue it? And that was, I think, a couple of the things that our communities will hopefully continue to enjoy as we emerge from this pandemic. So I can talk more about my legislation working on mental health, wildfire, and others, but I do want to make sure I leave time for you guys to ask questions. So I will turn it back over to you if anybody has any questions.
If you have a question, you need to unmute yourself so you can ask. I'm looking for show of hands. Also, Georgine Von Heer-Leopold joined us. She's the director with Dublin San Ramon Services District. And Razi Hasni with Joya Yoga. He is about to become a member of the Dublin Chamber Board. So welcome.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Patricia.
Okay, you mentioned something about the trades workforce. Can you explain a little bit more on that? That was pretty much at the beginning
Yeah, so I was talking a little bit about the budget and how we're trying to help workforce and help business thrive. And we know that one of the ways is to retrain some of our workforce, right? That is shifting and changing and make sure that they are able to get the jobs and be prepared for the jobs that are available today. So we put $1.5 billion into a jobs initiative. And that will go to support arts programs that are training workers, education, and the trades workforce development. So one of the things that we've done and we want to continue to do is improve California's infrastructure, right? It needs it, as we all know. And one of the barriers to that is workforce. We don't have enough workforce to get our roads done as quickly as we can fund them, right? I mean, we're paying this gas tax, we have money to do roads, and then you can't find, you know, and as anyone who's tried to do a home remodel or remodel your business, it's hard to find a qualified workforce. So we want to continue to improve those programs that train workers so that we can do the work that California needs and do it efficiently and effectively. So that's
Sure.
part
Is
of
that
it.
like in conjunction with the schools, you know, for like a vocational program or something?
Yes, yeah, and some of it will be done through, so depending on the program, some of it will be done through the trades, some will be done through vocational programs, some of it through our community colleges. It depends on the program. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of one of the things that I really focus on, and I've had this conversation a lot, and I sit on the public safety committee and I'm really focused on our recidivism programs, is that we have an incredible community college system in California. You know, you have incredible, and so we have these programs built up already where we can educate individuals. So let's not recreate the wheel. Let's, you know, fund our community colleges and our other pre-existing programs to train all these individuals who need access to workforce and jobs. So that's what we're trying to continue to do.
Guy, and then Laura, and then Rick. Guy, you have a question?
Sure, I got a question.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Rebecca. Guy Houston here. Today I'm representing Mission Hope Day program, and I wanted to thank you very much for the support with you in the legislature this last year for funding the 8% increase. Of course, it's kicking in April, not earlier, but we'll take it. But going forward, we have tremendous issues with workforce, like it's been talked about. And do you have any ideas for this coming year how to support some of the DDS services that can continue to grow?
Yeah, you're going to like my answer, I think. But you and I have talked about how some of your workforce, and with the 8% increase, hopefully this is correcting, but can go and get a job at Starbucks and get paid more, right? And these are incredibly hard
Bay
jobs.
Area.
What?
The Bay Area. It's tough to compete with In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are jobs where we need incredibly caring people who, you know, work hard. These are not easy jobs that you are filling. And so we need to continue to look at how we can pay individuals more. And this is true for our developmental disability community. I'd say it's also true for our seniors. In home supportive services, we have the same problem, right? We're underpaying these individuals who have incredibly hard jobs. And we need to put our money where our mouth is and give these individuals who need support access to it. So hopefully with the surplus I mentioned at the beginning, we can continue to support these programs.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Laura?
Sort of following up on that. I mean, obviously Spectrum Community Services is a nonprofit, but I'm also a small business with 47 employees and no HR. I do everything we can to make sure that our employees have good benefits, including health benefits. But even then, you know, my part-time people or some of my lower paid employees continue to choose to be on the exchange instead. Even though sometimes those plans are not as good as what I'm offering. I'm wondering what your position is on AB 1400 and what you see the future of that bill to be.
Is AB 1400?
It's Ash Kalra's single payer. Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to be honest with you that I think we have to fix our healthcare system. You know, we now have most Californians covered. We continue to expand access in California. So now the vast majority of Californians have healthcare. But to your point, how good is that healthcare and how much does it cover is sort of the follow-up question. And everyone deserves, you know, access to quality and comprehensive healthcare. But we have to be able to pay for it. We have to make sure that we can balance our budget. Not only is it constitutionally mandated that we balance our budget, but it's the responsible thing to do. And we have not figured out a way to do AB 1400 and fund it. And so, you know, I think that is what has stalled it is how do we make it work? How do we provide quality healthcare for all and access to healthcare for everybody? And, you know, in California, we are succeeding in getting most folks covered, undercovered California, but are there ways to improve it? For sure. And we should continue to look at that, but we also have to make sure we're doing it in a responsible way. So hopefully that's the work that we charge them with doing, and hopefully they'll come back to us with some solutions.
Yeah, I would hope that we could get to a point where it was a payroll tax and that we were all paying into it in some way, so that it took that off the table when it comes to me trying to hire somebody, right? As we're talking about people, I've got 4 jobs out there that have been posted for a week, and I have gotten 1 applicant.
Yeah.
We're struggling to do that. And sometimes people, when people are looking at jobs, they're not going, oh, well, this $20 an hour job has benefits paid and this one doesn't, right? And so sometimes people aren't noticing the difference. If we could level the playing field for all of us, you know, and create access for everybody so that my workers aren't afraid to go to the doctor, it would be great.
Yeah. So, well, and to your point, employers in California are spending a lot right now on healthcare. It's not like this isn't something that employers are not doing currently, for sure. Those that cover.
Rick,
and I just wanted to, Christine put, Sean answered. Okay. So Christina put in the chat about those who can't get a hold of EDD. Sadly, this is what Sean and the team do almost all day, every day for the past year and a half, is assist our constituents in getting a hold of EDD. There was a point at which EDD was telling people to call us to get help, which we won't get into, but we are here to help. And we actually have, through the pandemic, figured out ways to really speed up that process for folks. So if you do know people who are struggling with getting their EDD benefits, which they are entitled to, that shouldn't be as difficult as it is. We're working on that on the legislative side, but please have them call our office or Senator Glazer's office, because we can help.
Excellent. Rick, and then Razi.
Yeah, thank you, Assemblymember. It's exciting to hear and to see all the work you're doing. I support so much of what you have, but that extra perk in your step when you talk about the parks and what you do with Tesla open space, you know, as a park elected official, it's this balance between density and amenities, and you know, density without amenities is really difficult to push. But I just support your work with open space. But I'm also an insurance broker, and I know you mentioned SB 19 talking about the wine growers and really the robust wine, you know, industry we have around here. But from the insurance side, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get insurance for a lot of our commercial agricultural folks, and especially the wine growers. I've got clients that cannot get insurance. I know you've mentioned putting money aside to the state to be able to help with East Bay Regional and clearing. Is there anything, and we just haven't seen it from the insurance side in legislation, to really help the industry? And we're just kind of eagerly waiting, because even on the personal side, extremely difficult. I know you're having your constituents come to you with these insurances. Do you see any legislation movement on the floor in the next year or sooner?
Yeah, and part of what, and yes, I mean, we're seeing it, you know, I live in Orinda, we're seeing it here, we're seeing it in the Tri, it's all over. I mean, every city I represent is on the wildland urban interface. So it is consistently a problem across my district. And so part of what we're looking at is our communities are doing an incredible amount, and I'm sure the folks in the wine industry, I know they are, to prevent and mitigate wildfire, right? So I know, you know, communities are becoming fire-wise, they're trimming back trees, you know, our fire departments are investing in sprinklers out in the wildland urban face and sensors, and we're doing everything we can to prevent it. And it does mitigate the risk, right, of massive damage. And we see that fires do break out here frequently, and yet we are able to stop them because of some of that work, thank God, and let's hope that continues. But so one of the things we're looking at is, how do we get credit for that with the insurance companies, right? It's sort of this blanket, well, you're in the wildland urban interface, you're in a high fire zone, here's the risk, right? But the risk is not the same in every wildland urban interface, depending on the work you're doing and the fire department, et cetera. And so how do we provide for that and say, there should be credit for that? If you know, already, I think there are ways to do it. If you harden your home, but there's more work that goes into it. So, that's part of what we're looking at, but it's a serious issue. It's one that, my colleagues and I who represent these communities where insurance is becoming a real issue, are very focused on addressing. How do we ensure the insurance commissioner is doing everything he can to address it? Because we need our homes to be insured. We need to be protected. And we also need insurance companies that can pay when something happens, right? If they overburden the risk and then something happens and they can't cover all the insurance needs, that's also not a feasible solution, right? So, and I don't, there is the state option. It is an option of last resort, and currently as designed, that should be its role. And so how do we create a market that is more functioning than I think it is today? And it is something we're looking at, and we'll continue to look at.
Yeah, thank you. Because it is the California Fair Plan. I mean, they succeed when their clients aren't with them. I mean, that's really the idea. So, and the insurance companies are not taking those mitigation components when looking at the risk. And that's a big issue for the clients. But I appreciate you looking at it and appreciate the work.
Yeah, thank you.
Ozzy?
Oh, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Assemblymember. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to answer a few questions here. It's not often that we get to speak to the state Assemblymember, so it's really cool what we do. So I have a few questions. My name is Razi. As Sue hinted, I'm about to join the board for the chamber in Dublin. I'm doing that. But I also represent, I'm also a board member on the State Fitness Alliance for representing fitness businesses and operations throughout the whole state, as well as representing a few fitness businesses and operations, I would say almost 100 within your district alone, smaller business operators. So my question relates to this business, to our industry in specific, and perhaps can translate to some of the other service-related industries. Our industry in specific has suffered tremendously. For the most part, we've been closed for the better part of 16 months during the pandemic, with allowing to be reopened probably somewhere around May in some sort of meaningful capacity. When we did reopen over the pandemic, some of us couldn't do it because we were operating at 10% capacity, at 25% capacity, which were, Assemblymember, if you're aware of that, if you understand how smaller studio operators operate, that means that most of them couldn't have more than 1 or 2 people in the studio for those smaller businesses. So it didn't mean much. So my question relates to help for that industry. And I know California is experiencing a surplus right now. So we're looking at asking the state and trying to see if we can get some help from you in specific with a commercial rent abatement program. I know the cities and I know the counties have introduced that as part of the relief opportunities that they've gotten from the CARE Acts. But really we need a state program to offset a lot of what the counties and cities have offered. So any kind of commercial rent abatement program to assist us with that. Many of us are faced with deferred rents right now and rents that, or either 50% forgiven, deferred for some point. So we're going to be coming up on some pretty large bills in 2022, quarter one of 2022, which some might be able to make it, some might not. We've already lost about 30% of our businesses, and I would venture to say probably about 30 to 35% within your district alone. That couldn't make it. So commercial rent abatement is going to be a huge opportunity where the state can issue help specific to fitness businesses and perhaps across the board. The second question would be, and I apologize for the length, the second question would be, I know that California has recently started exploring a live venues grant act, a live venues grant to assist live venues that have gone out of, that are having trouble or that are staying in business during the pandemic. But I want to point to you that live venues, in addition to restaurants, have gotten federal help in the state. And if I can represent and speak for the fitness industry here in our county, in your district, and as across the state, the fitness industry in specific has not gotten any help at all. Many of us that did qualify for PPP loans couldn't take the PPP loans because we were not allowed to open. So even though the majority of the payment, majority of the help could get to offset for employees, most of us couldn't hire employees, couldn't retain employees because we were shut down. So a lot of us elected not to take the PPP loans. And many of us feel that it's unfair to borrow money in an EIDL from an EIDL loan to offset, to pay off landlords or to pay off bills when we were mandated closed by the state. So any help from the state with regards to some sort of a grant specifically directed towards the fitness industry would be great. I would just point to the fact that we have over 5,000 gyms and studios in the whole state. The state has 390,000 jobs that are related to the fitness industry, 8.8 million members that we control across the state, and then $5 billion in revenue that's been decimated in 2020. And we're going to need a lot of help to offset that. And lastly, we, as you know, I know mental health is a big opportunity for us to work together, and I can't understate the amount of influence that gyms and fitness centers and studios and operations like that have an impact, a huge impact on our community's mental health. We're here to help. We want to help, and we need the help. And thank you for answering our questions.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And I couldn't agree more. My mental health is definitely better when I'm active and engaging in fitness. So I get it. And I'm always trying to get my kids to do it too when they're feeling down. So yeah, and I mean, look, I completely understand what you're saying, and the shutdowns were really difficult on our businesses, and some more than others, right? And you know, I know that the fitness industry tried so hard to be creative with outdoor programs and things like that, but it just wasn't the same. And you know, that regular. I was just talking to a friend of a friend who runs a fitness studio in Walnut Creek. And, you know, she was saying, you know, she was doing all that, but it was a fraction of what she gets when she has regular clients who come 3 days a week, you know, and are inside and they can do full capacity. And so I completely hear you. You know, we have done a lot of grants for small businesses, and I'd be eager to hear sort of what the results have been for your industry, because obviously those were meant to be targeted at our hardest hit industries, which you are one of, and obviously important, as I said, from so many perspectives. You mentioned mental health, but employees, right? I mean, the industry employs a lot of Californians. So we do want to help. And, you know, to the extent that our grant program hasn't gotten all the work, we should continue to make sure we're getting it to the businesses that need it, as I said, especially as we face a continued surplus. There was a discussion, and I was actively involved in it because we were seeing it here for sure, for commercial rent relief, as we were discussing rent relief for individuals, and it didn't make it. And I think the vision was that our grant program would be a way to get that rent relief to businesses, but it sounds like it didn't do enough. So let's follow up so I can hear what's going on.
Danita, you have a question, and then Laura has another question. Danita?
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Thank you so much, Assemblywoman, for allowing us this platform to speak with you. And thank you for shouting out for the Community College District. We are dedicated to the workforce development programs and moving our area at a minimum forward in educating for students that will come back to work in our area. We are, as well as apprenticeship programs, which the governor has mandated we increase all apprenticeship programs. So my question is this. The city of Dublin, I'm also a director with the Dublin Chamber of Commerce. And so we are in the process, Hazel Weatherford with Dublin has been mentioning east of Fallon Road, the infrastructure that may need to go in. So Dublin has this stretch between Dublin and Livermore that is going to be developed, hopefully for light industrial, medical. Hazel could probably give you the exact details, but the infrastructure that needs to go through is costing quite a bit of money. And what I'm wanting to find out is what can you, or what influences do you have with the state on getting extra money so we can build that infrastructure?
Yeah, we can talk about what infrastructure you're talking about. Obviously, it depends on
streets.
Streets. Okay. Well, so one of the reason I say that is water is big. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, as you know, as we talk about building out, especially in areas like the Tri-Valley, right, where we're building out, access to water can be an issue, right? So infrastructure can mean a lot of things.
Well, and it would include that. Thank you.
Right. So we can look at that. It's interesting. I don't know the answer to that, but we can look into sort of what opportunities there are, and often there are.
Thank you. I would encourage that. We are excited about that program. Hazel has been working really hard on that. I'm sure that Sean's aware of it, and we appreciate any help you can give us in that area.
Yeah.
Laura?
So I'm wondering about redistricting. And I heard, but I hadn't gone and looked up yet, so I apologize, I didn't do all my homework, that there's a proposal for possible final maps for the assembly that came out. And what's your district looking like?
So it's not final.
Right.
They're still called visualizations. So it's all a public process. So as they draw these maps, they continue to be public as it goes. So they're still in the process of drawing, but we can see what they're drawing, right? So that's what we're seeing. Next week, we expect the first draft maps to come out. And then a month after that, the final maps are due. So we've seen something. I joke that all my cities are like my babies, and I'm not willing to give any of them up. I love them all, and my district does change slightly under the current visualizations. So the current visualization shows me keeping Dublin, but Dublin being separated in the assembly maps from Livermore and Pleasanton. And so that Livermore and Pleasanton would go up through Hayward. So Dr. Quirk would be under current assembly maps would represent that part of the Tri-Valley, and then I would represent Danville, San Ramon, and Dublin. And then my district goes further towards Martinez, Crockett, and Rodeo under the current maps. Again, that is a visualization. We don't know what's going to happen as they do the draft and final maps. And again, they're all my babies. I'm like, I don't want to lose Pleasanton and Livermore.
For somebody who only works in Alameda County, I hope we do keep you in Alameda, on the Alameda County side for some of it.
It's been such a place. I obviously live in Contra Costa County, but I've spent I've spent a lot of time, making sure that I understand what the Tri-Valley wants and needs and how I should represent all of you. And it's been really a joy. I love the community, and it's the way the Tri-Valley works together and works to create jobs and ensure that there's a jobs housing balance and takes care of their community. I was out in the Goodness Village with Sean recently out in Livermore, the new tiny home community to transition our homeless into permanent housing. I mean, just the things that are happening out there. I'm just, it's amazing work. So but my district is one of the districts that has grown the most in the state. Nice work, Dublin. So, I knew that it had to change a bit, but I'm hoping less change.
It's still good. It's still good for you to know all of the different things and have a broader perspective. For
sure. And I mean, even if these maps were to be finalized, things like Valley Link, which I have worked tirelessly on for 3 years, I would still, again, if, in this map, I would represent Dublin. It's an important issue to Dublin and San Ramon, obviously. And I believe the whole 580 corridor. But so, there's certain projects that no matter what, whether I represent the station or not, will remain a part of what I do, for sure.
Good. Thank you.
Georgine, and then Rick.
Rebecca, thank you for coming. We were reminded recently at the Tri-Valley Mayor Summit how important it is for the 5 cities to be in one group, both for Alameda County supervisors, for Assembly, for Senate, as well as on the federal level. The federal level right now, Livermore Pleasanton is linked to Gilroy. I mean, some of these lines obviously tell me that the people drawing them don't know anything about a community of interest. If there is a bigger community of interest in California, I don't know where it's at. Our Tri-Valley operates as a very cohesive region, and it's critically important that they stay together. That's how we've gotten some highway money. I mean, we've done a lot of things together, and I know it's over a county line and everybody has a fit, but we make it work. And I think it's important that everybody here, I know there's not much you can do, but everybody
There's
here,
nothing for the record, there's nothing I can do. I'm not even supposed to be involved in the process.
Right, not supposed to be talking about it. We're having the same trouble at DSRC, so I understand. But the rest of you need to call into the Redistricting Commission and tell them how important our area is. We were told that as an area, we become the 10th largest city in the state. So I would urge everybody to get on the phone and call the redistricting and make sure we stay together. So I don't really have a question for you, Rebecca. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's so the Independent Redistricting Commission, which was created before my time in the legislature. I don't know if Guy's still on. I don't know if that happened when Guy was in the legislature. No, I'm just saying no. But you know, I mean, they do this and they're picked through a exhaustive process. I mean, watching this process, which I have to say, told people as I was watching it as a legal dork, was really fascinating. Like it's a really extensive process to get this independent commission that, you know, will do this outside of the influence of politicians like me. And so we are not at all involved. I don't have any say in the matter. I'm not trying to influence the matter. I'm telling you where it stands today, but you know, that's the way it works, and we'll see the lines in December, and you know, hopefully they will allow communities to really thrive together. That's the goal for sure, and allow, you know, minorities to have the representation they deserve in California, and the goals of the commission, which are laudable for sure.
Rick, and then Denise.
Great. Rebecca, I just want to circle back around to my question about the commercial insurance for the vintners. I found my notes. The SB 11 was passed by the governor, signed on July 23rd, and it allowed for the California Fair Plan to offer commercial property coverage for farmers, including the vintners. We still don't have that product out, and so I'm not really asking a question. I'm just saying that if someone could look into that, you know, that was 3.5 months.
When did you say it was signed, Rick?
It was signed on July 23rd, SB 11.
So this year, so we'll go into effect in January then, unless it had an urgency clause.
Okay, perfect.
But I'd have to look if it had an urgency clause. If not, then it all goes into effect in January.
Yeah, I was on the impression it was an emergency because there's no insurance being allowed for, I mean, the carriers are not offering the property coverage for my wineries. We can't get it anywhere. So
let's look into that, Sean, on whether that had an urgency and when it goes into effect and when they'll be providing that product.
Wonderful. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is why I love Sean.
Denise?
Good morning, Assemblymember. I actually do not have a question, but just want to echo the sentiments that we do want to keep you in our district. So I'm Denise Boyer, Senior Director of Government and Community Relations for Stanford Healthcare Valley Care. And we have facilities in both Livermore, Pleasant, and Dublin, and a lot of your district. We appreciate the support you have given us throughout prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic, and continue to support us. For those that aren't aware, we are looking to become a trauma center in Alameda County. Alameda County is currently looking at they have a consultant that's working on the entire trauma system for Alameda County, and we have put in a proposal to become a trauma center. So we'll continue to look for your support throughout this process. So appreciate everything.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a little bit of an advertisement, but no, I think this is such a great opportunity. And the first time I went and visited Stanford, they showed me their new stroke program that they had brought in from Stanford. And, you know, I can't remember how far the closest stroke center was prior to you guys becoming a stroke center. But in a lot of these cases, minutes is life or death, right? And so I think that what Stanford continues to do to try to increase services in the Tri-Valley for these critical moments that hopefully none of us will ever need, but you know, many do, is really important work. And it's been, you know, we've been so happy to support it. And I want to thank you guys for doing it, because it really is important life-saving work.
Thank you.
And the stroke robots they use are very cool, you guys. Just as an aside.
What's a stroke robot?
Well, it's this so they have, in order to be a stroke center, you have to have, and Denise will explain this better than I can, but you have to have doctors of a certain training and level. And those doctors were at Stanford, but they can use this robot that they can, that can see into your pupils and do all these things to evaluate them. And then some people are actually helicoptered over to Stanford Palo Alto if they need a certain level of care, but many people can be treated right here at Valley Care. But I saw the robot in action. It was very cool.
Yeah, they say time is brain, right? So time is of the essence. You need to get care immediately. And so, yes, we are proud to be a certified stroke center and hope to become our newest trauma center in the Tri-Valley.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, we've exhausted the questions. Thank you very much, Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer Kahan. This is great having you here. Oh, Inga, you have a question. Sorry.
I just have a comment. Razi asked in the Q&A about the redistricting, and Sean and I threw in some links for upcoming meetings and the visualizations, because we've got it for Congress, Assembly, and Senate, and then there's also Alameda County. So it's 2 things, not 1.
And I believe in the Senate visualizations, Senator Glaser's district, it does stay together, right?
From what I'm understanding, they're trying to cleanly nest 2 assemblies within a Senate, keep communities of interest together, and then also something to do with people's ethnic backgrounds kind of together, like
So they try to create minority majority districts that allow minorities to have representation.
Yeah, and then there was something else, but
yeah, there's a list. You can actually see the list of factors, and they're like in order, and it's very interesting.
It is.
But yeah, and I want to thank Inga for inviting me here today, and all of you for being here. It's so fun to be with you, and yeah, I mean, I just thank you for all the work, and it's always interesting to hear what all of you are thinking about, and it sort of enables us to be better focused on the needs of the community. And I just, so many of you here do such incredible work. Amara, I'm sorry you're having trouble hiring, because your work is so critical to our seniors in our community, and thank you for what you do every day. And I know that's true for so many of you. So, thank you, because I have to say, when this pandemic started and we were all stuck in our homes, and it was really depressing, and we couldn't go to our fitness studios and get that boost we needed for our mental health. What actually got me through it was watching this community and watching everybody step up to do what they could to serve our seniors in our most vulnerable communities. And the coming together was really unparalleled. And you were all an incredible part of that. And I want to thank you, because we couldn't, we as a government do everything we can, but we can't do it without all of you. So thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you, everyone. Until
Bye,
the next.
guys. Good to see you.
Yep.